Gentlemen, I have to give you a serious warning today because what I'm about to share may shock you. If you are over 60, there are not one, not two, but 10 different kinds of nuts that are silently making your prostate grow bigger every single day. These are nuts you've likely eaten for years, even believing they were healthy. But the truth is, they may be the very reason you are up at night running to the bathroom or struggling with the silent weight of prostate enlargement. My name is Dr. Mohikara. I'm a board-certified urologist with more than 3 decades of experience, helping men protect their prostate health, restore their confidence, and live with dignity. I've seen the devastating toll an enlarged prostate can take, and I've dedicated my life to guiding men like you through it with compassion and clear science. And here's where things get uncomfortable. You've been told for decades that nuts are heart healthy, brain healthy, a smart snack to live longer, but no one told you the hidden truth. Some of these very same nuts fuel the inflammation and hormonal imbalances that cause your prostate to swell. That's why in this video, I promise to reveal the 10 worst nuts you must avoid starting today. And when you remove them, you'll give your body a chance to calm the prostate, sleep through the night, and finally take back control of your health. Stay with me until the end, because I'll be naming all 10, and the last one may surprise you the most. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss important advice that could protect your prostate health. And I'd love to hear from you if you want me to share more videos like this. Type 1 in the comments. If you'd like me to improve or cover something different, type 0. Your feedback helps me create content that truly serves you. Now let's get into the truth you've been waiting for. The very first nut on this list is one you've probably eaten since childhood. And it may shock you to hear this because while it's a household favorite, it's quietly one of the worst for your prostate: peanuts. 1. Peanuts. Let's start with the most surprising and perhaps the most painful to hear, because I know how deeply peanuts are woven into American life. Peanuts have been with us since childhood. Peanut butter sandwiches in school lunches, roasted peanuts at ball games, peanut oil in home cooking. For many of you, this nut represents comfort, tradition, and even nostalgia, but I need to tell you the truth. Too much omega-6 fuels inflammation, and inflammation is one of the driving forces behind prostate enlargement. Think of it this way: every handful of peanuts you eat pours gasoline on the fire inside your prostate, making it swell, irritate, and tighten. 2. Peanuts are especially vulnerable to contamination with AFL toxins. These are toxins produced by molds that grow on peanuts during storage. You can't see them, you can't taste them, but your body certainly feels their effect. The aflatoxins damage DNA, increase oxidative stress, and may raise the risk of cancer for a gland as sensitive as the prostate. This is like inviting a silent enemy into your body every time you snack. 3. Peanuts contain natural compounds called phytoestrogens. These are plant-based molecules that mimic the hormone estrogen, and as men age, our testosterone levels naturally decline, while estrogen activity tends to become relatively stronger. Adding extra estrogen-like compounds through peanuts only worsens this imbalance, pushing the prostate toward further growth. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking: Doctor, I've eaten peanuts my whole life, and I'm fine. But let me ask you, are you really fine? Are you sleeping through the night without running to the bathroom? Do you feel as confident in your flow as you did at first? Often the symptoms sneak up slowly, so slowly that you don't notice until they've already stolen your comfort and freedom. Gentlemen, if there is one nut I urge you to stop today, it is peanuts. Removing them from your diet can be the first step in cooling the fire of inflammation, calming your hormones, and giving your prostate the breathing space it desperately needs. And if you think peanuts are the only nut you need to worry about, think again, because the next nut on this list is just as common, just as beloved, and yet it carries hidden dangers that most men never suspect. Let's talk about cashews. 2. Cashews. Now let's move on to cashews. I know many of you love them. They're buttery, creamy, and they feel like a luxury snack. I've met countless patients who tell me they reach for cashews because they believe they're one of the healthier nuts, and I get it. Cashews taste indulgent without the guilt of candy or chips. But here's what you need to hear, especially after 60. Cashews can quietly fuel the very inflammation and urinary troubles you're trying to avoid. Cashews are especially high in omega-6 fatty acids, and once again, it's about balance. When omega-6 overwhelms omega-3 in your body, the result is a chronic low-grade inflammation. Your joints may ache, your blood vessels may stiffen, and inside your pelvis, your prostate feels the pressure. Think of your prostate as a sponge. When inflamed, that sponge swells, and it doesn't take much swelling before it presses down on your urethra, the very tube that carries your urine. That's when you feel the weak stream, the hesitancy and the constant need to go. But there's more. Cashews are also high in oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds found in many foods, but in sensitive men, they can contribute to kidney stones and irritate the urinary tract. Now, imagine this. You're already struggling with an enlarging prostate, and on top of that, you're making your urinary tract more irritated and less forgiving. It's a recipe for nights of discomfort, poor sleep, and frustration. And here's something I've noticed in practice. Many men who snack on cashews regularly also carry a little extra weight around the middle. Cashews are calorie-dense, and they're so easy to overeat. That belly fat isn't just about how your clothes fit. It's a factory of estrogen pumping out signals that further disrupt your testosterone balance. The more belly fat you carry, the more pressure is placed on your hormone system, and the harder your prostate works against you. Cashews, as innocent as they seem, can nudge this vicious cycle along without you even realizing it. Now, does this mean that 1 or 2 cashews will ruin you? Of course not. But for men over 60, who are already at higher risk for prostate growth, making cashews a daily habit can absolutely tip the scales in the wrong direction. I've told many of my patients to swap cashews for almonds or walnuts, and often within weeks, they notice less bloating, better energy, and even fewer nighttime bathroom trips. So if peanuts were the first nut to give you pause, cashews should make you think twice before reaching into that jar again, and just when you thought it couldn't get worse, there's another nut, rich and flavorful, that many men enjoy with pies and desserts, but it carries an even heavier burden for your prostate health. Let's talk about pecans. 3 pecans. Pecans may look harmless, even wholesome, especially when you think about pecan pie during the holidays, or a handful of roasted pecans as a snack. For many of us, pecans bring back warm memories of family gatherings, Thanksgiving tables, and the sweet taste of tradition. But as much as I respect those memories, I need to tell you the truth. Pecans are quietly working against your prostate, and if you're over 60, they may be part of the reason you're not sleeping through the night. The first problem with pecans is their extremely high content of omega-6 fatty acids. Now, as I've explained before, it's not that omega-6 is always bad, it's about the balance. When omega-6 overwhelms omega-3, the body shifts into an inflammatory state, and in older men that inflammation often settles in the prostate. Your prostate doesn't scream in pain when it's inflamed. Instead, it swells silently, presses on your bladder, and suddenly you're waking up 3, 4, even 5 times at night, wondering why you can't get through your sleep without another bathroom trip. Pecans may taste sweet and innocent, but inside your body they can be stirring up a storm. Second, pecans are incredibly calorie-dense. Just a small handful can pack more calories than you realize. And here's what I see in many of my patients. Casual snacking on calorie-rich nuts leads to slow weight gain, especially around the belly. That belly fat doesn't just sit there. It produces hormones, including excess estrogen, which disrupt the delicate testosterone balance that men need to keep their prostate in check. More fat means more estrogen activity, and more estrogen means more prostate growth. That's when I have to gently explain. Sometimes the very foods you think are helping are the ones holding you back. So gentlemen, I urge you to take a hard look at pecans. If they've been a regular part of your diet, It may be time to cut back or cut them out altogether, because while they may comfort your taste buds, they are doing no favors for your prostate. And if pecan surprised you, wait until you hear about the next nut. It's small, often sprinkled over salads or baked into elegant dishes, yet it hides a danger that can irritate your body from the inside out. Let's turn our attention to pine nuts. 4. Pine nuts. Pine nuts are often seen as a gourmet food. They're sprinkled over salads, blended into pesto, or roasted lightly to add flavor to fancy dishes. Many of my patients think of pine nuts as elegant, refined, even a little exotic. But here's what most men don't realize. Those tiny little kernels can be silently undermining your prostate health in ways that are easy to miss, but hard to ignore over time. Inflammation is like a slow burn. It makes the tissue swell, it irritates the gland, and it makes those bathroom trips more frequent and more urgent. If you've been eating pine nuts often, believing they're a healthy choice, your prostate may be paying the price. Another strange but real problem is something known as pine mouth syndrome. Not every man experiences it, but when it happens, it leaves a bitter metallic taste in the mouth that can last for days. Now, why does this matter for your prostate? Because it's a clue that pine nuts can trigger oxidative stress and irritate your system in subtle ways. The same stress that leaves a bad taste in your mouth is working in the background on your cells, including the cells of your prostate. Over time, that extra burden can weaken the tissue, make it more vulnerable to enlargement, and set the stage for more serious issues down the line. I remember one gentleman in his late 60s who loved adding pine nuts to his nightly salads. He told me proudly that he was eating healthy, avoiding red meat, and focusing on plants. But despite all his efforts, he was still waking up 4 or 5 times every night. When we looked closely at his diet, pine nuts were showing up almost daily. After he cut them out and switched to walnuts, he came back months later with tears in his eyes telling me it was the first time in years he had slept through the night. Sometimes the smallest changes make the biggest difference. So while pine nuts may look harmless and even sophisticated, they are not a friend to the prostate, especially for men over 60. And if you think pine nuts are the worst of it, brace yourself. But when it comes to your prostate, macadamia nuts carry their own hidden risks. You need to know about 5 macadamia nuts. Macadamia nuts have this reputation for being luxurious, almost decadent. They're smooth, buttery, and often associated with special treats like white chocolate macadamia cookies or gourmet snack mixes. Many men I've spoken to have told me they chose macadamia nuts because they thought they were a better fat something, heart-healthy, a smart indulgence compared to chips or candy. And while that may sound good on the surface, here's the reality you need to hear. Macadamia nuts, as tasty as they are, can quietly make life harder for your prostate. The first problem lies in their fat content. Unlike some other nuts, macadamias are very high in saturated fats. Now, a little saturated fat in the diet is fine, but when you regularly consume foods loaded with it, your cholesterol can creep up. Higher cholesterol levels don't just affect your arteries and heart, they also impair circulation throughout the body, including the pelvic region. Poor blood flow around the prostate means less oxygen, less nutrient delivery, and more stress on the tissue. Over time, that strain can feed the cycle of enlargement and make urinary symptoms worse. Macadamias are also extremely calorie-dense. A small handful can carry hundreds of calories. And because they're so rich and buttery, it's easy to eat far more than you planned. Those extra calories have to go somewhere, and for many men over 60, they settle right around the belly. That belly fat is more than just cosmetic. It's hormonally active. It produces estrogen-like signals that weaken the effect of your testosterone. When testosterone falls out of balance, your prostate is left vulnerable, and it begins to grow larger, squeezing your urethra little by little. I remember a patient in his 70s who told me with a smile that he enjoyed macadamias every evening with a glass of wine. To him, it felt like a small pleasure, something he had earned after decades of hard work. But he also confessed that he was waking up 5 times a night and had begun to dread even short car rides because he never knew when he'd need a bathroom. When we cut the macadamias and replaced them with a handful of walnuts, within weeks he noticed better energy, and over time his bathroom trips became less frequent. It was proof that even the smallest habit change can restore comfort and dignity. So, while macadamia nuts may feel like a guilty pleasure for your prostate, they're far more trouble than they're worth. And if you thought macadamias were indulgent, wait until we talk about the next nut one that many men eat by the handful at social gatherings, believing it's harmless. But in reality, it's hiding problems that can strike at the very core of your urinary health. Let's move on to pistachios. 6. Pistachios. Pistachios are one of those nuts that feel fun to eat. There's something about cracking open the shells, the bright green color inside, the salty crunch that makes them almost addictive. I've had many patients tell me they keep a bowl of pistachios on the coffee table, thinking it's a light and healthy snack compared to chips or candy. And I understand the appeal. They taste good, they look wholesome, and they carry that reputation of being heart healthy. But here's the truth for men. Over 60 pistachios can be quietly stirring up trouble in your prostate. The first issue is their high content of omega-6 fatty acids. You've heard me say this before, but it bears repeating. Too much omega-6 tips your body into inflammation, and inflammation is the silent driver of prostate enlargement. Pistachios eaten regularly can keep that fire alive in your system. Another hidden problem with pistachios is their high level of natural compounds called fructans. These are types of carbohydrates that many men's digestive systems have trouble breaking down. They ferment in the gut, causing bloating, gas, and discomfort. Now, you may wonder, what does this have to do with the prostate? Well, the gut and the prostate are more connected than most people realize. When your digestion is irritated, your immune system ramps up. That immune response can spill over into your prostate, fueling inflammation and worsening symptoms. Many men tell me they never connected their bathroom troubles to what was happening in their gut. But once they cut out pistachios, they noticed improvements in both. And then there's the question of portion size. Pistachios may be small, but who stops at just a few? A couple of handfuls can quickly add up to hundreds of calories. And just like with other calorie-dense nuts, that weight often lands around the midsection. Extra belly fat creates hormonal imbalances, producing more estrogen activity, which pushes the prostate further out of balance. It's another way that something as innocent as a bowl of pistachios can add to your struggles. I remember a gentleman in his late 60s who told me proudly that he had given up ice cream, given up soda, and switched to pistachios at night. But he was still waking up 5 or 6 times exhausted and frustrated. When I explained the link and he cut back, he finally started to feel some relief. So while pistachios may look bright, cheerful, and inviting, they may not be as harmless as you think. And if pistachios surprised you, wait until you hear about the next seed on our list. A common one that many people snack on, roast, or sprinkle over salads. But when it comes to your prostate, sunflower seeds may carry risks you never expected. 7. Sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds are one of those snacks that feel almost innocent. Maybe you've cracked them open while watching a baseball game, or kept a small bag in the car for long drives. They're cheap, they're everywhere, and they give you that satisfying crunch that makes you feel like you've made a smarter choice than reaching for chips or candy. But here's what I want you to understand. When it comes to your prostate, sunflower seeds may not be as harmless as they appear, and for men over 60, they could be adding fuel to a fire that's already burning. One of the biggest issues with sunflower seeds is their extremely high content of omega-6 fatty acids. By now you've probably noticed the pattern. Omega-6 in excess drives inflammation, and inflammation is the quiet engine behind prostate enlargement. It doesn't hit you with sudden pain, it creeps in slowly. It shows up in the form of waking up 3, 4, or 5 times a night. It shows up as urgency when you're out in public and can't find a bathroom in time. Every handful of sunflower seeds might be feeding that cycle without you even realizing it. Another hidden danger is how easily sunflower seeds oxidize. The oils in them are fragile, and when they're roasted or left sitting for long periods, they can turn rancid. That rancidity creates free radicals, unstable molecules that attack healthy cells, including those in your prostate. Over time, this oxidative stress can weaken the tissue, making your prostate more vulnerable to swelling, irritation, and even long-term damage. I once had a patient, a retired truck driver, who kept sunflower seeds in his cab as a way to stay awake on long hauls. He thought he was doing himself a favor by avoiding candy bars, but when we sat down and looked at his diet, he realized he was going through bag after bag every week. His nights were miserable, constant trips to the bathroom, restless sleep, and a growing frustration that nothing seemed to help when he finally gave up the sunflower seeds and swapped them for healthier options like walnuts or almonds. Let's talk about pumpkin seeds. 8 pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds have almost a legendary reputation when it comes to men's health. You've probably read articles or heard friends say they're good for the prostate, and in small amounts that can be true. They contain zinc and plant compounds that, in moderation, may support the urinary system. But here's the problem. No one talks about when pumpkin seeds become a daily habit or when they're eaten in large amounts. They can quietly do more harm than good. And for men over 60 who are already battling the challenges of an enlarging prostate, that harm can tip the scale in the wrong direction. Pumpkin seeds are rich in phytosterols, plant-based compounds that mimic some of the body's natural hormones. While tiny doses may help balance cholesterol, higher amounts can create hormonal confusion, especially in older men whose testosterone levels are already declining. The body doesn't need extra estrogen-like signals, and yet that's exactly what large amounts of pumpkin seeds can deliver. The result is a subtle but steady push toward prostate growth. The very thing you're trying to avoid. They're also deceptively calorie-dense. A small handful may seem harmless, but it's easy to overeat, especially when they're roasted and salted. Those calories add up, and as weight gathers around the belly, the hormonal environment in your body shifts again, creating even more estrogen activity. Belly fat and high phytosterols together create a cocktail that pushes your prostate toward enlargement. Months later, he came back and admitted with a laugh that his nights were calmer and his bathroom trips less urgent. Sometimes it isn't about adding more, but about knowing when enough is enough. So yes, pumpkin seeds can have benefits, but they can also quietly push your prostate in the wrong direction when overdone. Moderation is the key. And for many men, cutting back is the smarter path. And if you thought pumpkin seeds were complicated, wait until we look at the next one. Because sesame seeds, often sprinkled innocently on bread, bagels, or stir-fries, may be delivering a hidden hormonal message that your prostate doesn't need. 9 sesame seeds. Sesame seeds are tiny, almost too small to take seriously. You see them scattered across hamburger buns, sprinkled over stir-fried vegetables, or ground into tahini for a creamy dip. They feel harmless, even healthy, and most men never stop to think twice about them. But here's the truth I've seen over and over again in my practice. Sesame seeds, despite their size, can have a surprisingly big impact on your hormonal balance. And when you're over 60, that imbalance can quietly feed your prostate troubles. Sesame seeds are rich in compounds called lignans. Lignans act like phytoestrogens, meaning they can mimic estrogen in the body. For women, that can sometimes be helpful, but for men, especially older men whose testosterone levels are already in decline, adding extra estrogen-like activity only makes things worse. Think of it this way. Your prostate is like a sponge that responds directly to hormonal signals. The more estrogen-like signals it receives, the more it swells and tightens around your urinary passage. It doesn't look like much, but those repeated exposures stack on top of each other. And for men over 60 who are already living with the delicate balance of aging hormones, those little doses can nudge the system just enough to make the prostate grow. I remember one patient, a man in his late 60s, who had switched from mayonnaise to tahini spreads because he thought he was making a healthier choice. He was proud of his decision, but he was also increasingly frustrated by his nighttime bathroom routine. When we traced back his diet, the sesame intake stood out after he scaled back. His symptoms didn't vanish overnight, but within a few months he told me with relief that his nights were far less disrupted. That small adjustment gave him back a sense of control. So, while sesame seeds may seem insignificant, they can add another layer of hormonal confusion your prostate simply doesn't need. And if sesame seeds made you pause, then you'll want to hear the final nut on our list. Because Brazil nuts, often celebrated as a superfood, carry a hidden risk when eaten too freely. And for your prostate, that risk can't be ignored. 10. Brazil nuts. Brazil nuts are often praised as a kind of superfood. They're rich, creamy, and filled with selenium, a mineral that the body does need in small amounts. You may have even heard people say just 1 or 2 Brazil nuts a day is enough to keep you healthy on the surface. That sounds reassuring, but I need to share with you the other side of the story, because for men over 60, especially those concerned about their prostate, Brazil nuts can be more dangerous than you realize. The key issue with Brazil nuts is that very mineral. They're famous for selenium. Selenium in small doses helps protect cells from oxidative stress, supports the immune system, and even plays a role in hormone balance. But here's the catch. It doesn't take much to go from healthy levels to toxic levels. Just a few Brazil nuts can contain several times the daily recommended intake of selenium. Over time, that excess doesn't make you healthier. It actually begins to poison the system, causing fatigue, hair loss, brittle nails, and most importantly, disturbances in your hormones. And when hormones are thrown off, the prostate is often one of the first organs to feel the consequences. I remember a gentleman in his early 70s who told me proudly that he was eating a handful of Brazil nuts every day because he'd read about their benefits online. He thought he was doing his body a favor, but in reality his selenium levels had skyrocketed, and he was dealing with constant fatigue, irritability, and worsening prostate symptoms. When we tested his blood and scaled back his Brazil nut intake, the difference was dramatic. His energy returned and his prostate symptoms began to ease. What he thought was a healthy habit had actually been sabotaging him. Brazil nuts are also incredibly calorie-dense, and it's very easy to overeat them because they're rich and satisfying. Just a few can add hundreds of calories to your diet, and if you're not careful, those calories translate into belly fat, further disrupting testosterone and fueling prostate growth. It is a cycle I've seen too many times. A man tries to help himself, but without the right guidance, he ends up hurting the very organ he's trying to protect. So while Brazil nuts may sound exotic and powerful, they are not the miracle food. Many believe them to be for men over 60. They can quietly turn into a threat, pushing your prostate in the wrong direction. And now that you've seen all 10 nuts that can make your prostate grow, it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because the real question isn't just which foods to avoid, but how to take control of your prostate health once and for all. And in the conclusion, I'll show you exactly what steps you can begin taking today. Conclusion, gentlemen. We've now walked through the 10 nuts that can quietly make your prostate grow. Peanuts, cashews, pecans, pine nuts, macadamias, pistachios, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, and Brazil nuts. Each one seems harmless on its own. Some even carry the reputation of being healthy. But when you're over 60, your body is more sensitive, your hormones are shifting, and your prostate responds to every signal you give it. I've sat across from too many men who told me they were trying to do the right thing, eating what they thought were smart snacks, only to end up frustrated by restless nights, endless bathroom trips, and a loss of confidence in their own bodies. But I want you to hear this clearly. You are not powerless. Small changes in what you eat can have a profound effect on how you feel. When my patients remove these nuts and replace them with healthier choices, walnuts, almonds, or other prostate-friendly foods, they often notice improvements they didn't think were possible. Better sleep, fewer interruptions, and a renewed sense of control. So take this knowledge to heart. Your health is in your hands, and even at this stage of life, you can make changes that restore comfort, strength, and dignity. Protecting your prostate begins with awareness and it continues with action.